Hey, my name's ShawNshawN. I sell art on ShawNshawN.co and specials on eBay. Today we're going to review Bad Boys for Life. So this is a film by two directors, Albi El Arbi, Balai Falia. It's 2 hours, 3 minutes, a little long. Normally I like the 1.5 hours. I think in an action film they kind of have gotten longer and longer, and I don't know if it's really necessary sometimes. It doesn't feel dead in the plot for that, but again, 2 hours, I don't know if it's totally necessary. It's fine, I guess. You have Will Smith as Detective Mike Lowry, Martin Lawrence as Detective Marcus Burnett, the two duo in the original Bad Boys. Paulo Nunes is Rita, this new up-and-coming girl in this new department called Arms or something. And it's this new fancy technological center within the Miami Police. And it's also one of the old flings of Mike Lowry. Joe Padoliano is Captain Howard, the captain that revisiting his role. Kate de Castillo is Elizabeth Aredas, one of the villains. And Jacob Spicio is Armando Armas, who is her son. So it's 25 years later. They've changed it up a little bit, so they're acknowledging the fact that time has passed. And Mike and Marcus are kind of on two different paths. Mike's kind of want to still gung-ho, keep going until the end. Doesn't have any kids, no obligations. And then you have, on the other hand, you have Marcus. He's becoming a grandfather. He's kind of like, let's get out of the game. We're done with this. There's no point to this anymore. So you have that kind of a little bit of a conflict. So they kind of play off pretty well, I think, in the plot. You know, they're riding around, and all suddenly, like, one by one, members of the police force related to some old case they don't know about, they're being picked off one by one, and Mike's actually shot, so you don't know if he's going to die or not. So it's kind of interesting. They play, you know, is Mike going to survive? He's not going to survive, that kind of thing. The hitman's this Isabel Aretas, who's kind of this bruja, someone from Mike's past again, who he put in prison years ago, right? So that's kind of the basic crux of the story. Yeah, I mean, for lighting, it's kind of a little bit garish, I would say. It's very Miami style, which obviously it's Miami, so they make it feel Miami, so it has kind of that Miami Vice feel a little bit. So there's a lot of pink neon, blue neon, and obviously, you know, Will Smith and Martin Lawrence are black, so, you know, having those kind of colors are great in the background. Like, I have all this changing color here makes the video a little bit better. So obviously they have neon lights in the background to kind of symbolize Miami, as well as the backlighting for the film. Sometimes it looks appropriate, like in the clubs, and other times it just looks like really garish, like in the street you'll see in the background bright orange light or bright pink, and you're just like, it just looks a little bit overdone. I mean, you do need lighting at night, so it's kind of a challenge, like how do you balance that so it looks like real ambient lighting, and you know, the practicalities of lighting at night. But it's a minor thing. I don't think the average viewer is going to pick up on that. It's really just a lighting guy would, you know, notice that and be like, man, this is kind of cornball. It's also very symbolic of Miami, so it probably works. You know, Mike's still in shape. You know, basically Will Smith's taking very good care of himself. He's aged, but obviously he's still like a skinny kind of lead character role. Martin, you know, he looks kind of chubby. I mean, I think he probably should have lost like 15-20 pounds for the role. It's not necessary, so it's kind of nice in the fact that as you get older, you do put on, like, I got kind of a double chin going. I never had that when I was in my 20s, 30s, so that's realistic. But you really kind of want to be in shape, I think, for these roles. People don't go to an action film with guys in it to see out of shape guys. They want to see kind of hot looking guys, or at least they're trying. And I mean, if that was the role before, like I think in Die Hard you had, you know, Will Smith is really in shape, and then you have this really fat kind of donut eating cop, and that's kind of a contrast as well. So maybe they're picking up on that. I don't know. Yeah, I just think it would have looked better if he was a little bit more shape. But on the other hand, him being a little pudgy, he fits more that second generation. He's a dad, and now he's becoming a grandfather, so you have kind of that rigmarole. They kind of have a flip the switch where you don't know if they're going to the funeral for Mike or they're going to something else, and so that they have a kind of a funny little bit of tension there. One thing I didn't like about the way the people were picked off is there's no mystery about it, per se. Other cop films have kind of done a better job of keeping the villains really in the background. You don't know who they are, why they're out to get them, and you have this really nice disconnect, and they have a little bit of that disconnect, but then, you know, they don't have like, who are these people connected? They're like, I don't know, we had 1,000 cases, blah blah blah, we're just dumb. You're like, you're supposed to be Bad Boys for Life, dude. You should be cracking the case. There is a realistic thing that, you know, you're 25 years in a case, you would have hundreds of people that are out to get you. I don't know. I just think it would have been interesting if they kind of cracked this case and went there. They did that a little bit where they have one of the characters, they go to this garage scene and they try to get to him, and then this guy gets killed off, so it's another dead end in a way. But, you know, it would have been kind of nice to see a little bit of that. Another thing is on the bad guy side, Isabella, she has this vendetta. It's supposedly because she got put in prison by Mike, and also because I think Mike killed her husband. They have a little bit of twist in that back end, which is cool, but I think they could have more development around maybe the husband and the wife, and instead of talking about it, maybe they should have filmed it a little bit and cut some other scenes out. I don't know. It just felt like they could have developed that character a little more. It was kind of an interesting thing that she has like this bruja, witch sense. And they kind of connected to, in Cuba, they have this thing called Santa Marisma where they worship kind of all these saints of the dead. And then at the same time, they're kind of mixing it with the Mexican Day of the Dead ceremonies where people worship the dead. And on that day, they have like skeletons and stuff. So they're kind of a mix of the two, which is fine, I think. It is in Mexico, so you would have a Day of the Dead thing. I don't know if they practice Santa Marismo in Mexico. That's more of a Cuban thing, but again, you're kind of picking fine tunes, I think. You probably only pick that up if you're Mexican or Cuban, so general people are not going to care, I don't think. But I like that kind of background. It kind of built a lot into the Mexican villain character a little bit. Yeah, just the fact that they don't connect the dots between all the different cases, and it just seems like they could have had more to work on, like showing them, researching or meeting these different people. I think it would have been a little bit more, add 5 minutes to the film maybe. Because yeah, it just feels like they just shoot a whole bunch of people and then they throw up their hands and then a couple people pop into place, and then, I mean, that kind of happens in a mystery sometimes, but it just seems like it could have shot that a little better. The other thing I think is kind of Mike as a character. He's always been the single playboy kind of guy, and it turns out in his past he had a fling with Isabella, and at the same time he has this girl on the new side of the forest, Rita, and he had a fling with her. And so none of that it kind of comes a little bit full circle with Isabella because she's a villain, so the villain gets popped off, but it doesn't really come full circle with Rita. He's still a playboy then, and he's in his 50s. Like, would that be realistic? I don't know. It just seems like he would have been married off at the minimum. Maybe second or third marriage or whatever, but it doesn't seem like he'd be a playboy forever. I mean, even Too Short finally had a kid at his 50s, so yeah, it just seems kind of quirky. It always makes you wonder whether Jada Smith forbids Will Smith from kissing anyone on set. Because Martin Lawrence said he gives like a little bit of smooch on his wife, who plays his wife, because you have to. And, Mike's not doing anything. He's supposed to be a playboy, but then he doesn't even do a kiss. You're like, is Jada Smith jealous or what? I mean, you had this with another Will Smith movie where it's very clean cut and there's no romance. And you're like, why is there a girl character if they're not going to hook up in the end? It's kind of like, it doesn't have to be like a hookup, but at least kiss or something, would make more sense. I think that kind of would have made more sense to, the evolution of Mike's character. Like, he's hitting 50 and maybe he's close to retirement, then maybe at least he gets a girlfriend. I don't know. Again, they kind of leave that open. They leave a little bit of window at the end to do a sequel. I don't know if they're going to do a sequel. They already waited 25 years between the two films, which in my mind is probably too long. They probably should have done it within 5-year windows so that it would have been a different movie, obviously, at 5 years, because then they wouldn't have so many cases. They wouldn't be that old. And Will Smith kind of talked about it in an interview that he didn't want to do it for a while because it didn't make sense. Probably there was a lot of stuff behind the scenes. Will Smith was doing a lot of movies. Who knows? But I don't know if there'll be a sequel. I mean, it's a decent action film, fun for the weekend. Again, probably a one-time movie. I don't think I add this to my collection per se, but it's entertaining. I hope you guys like my review. If you want to subscribe, you can subscribe below. And I'll see you in the next movie review. Thanks for watching.